What if I told you that every dollar you're spending on Facebook ads, every hour you're pouring into perfecting your sales funnels, and every late night you're staying up tweaking your marketing campaigns is actually making it harder for you to succeed? I know it sounds crazy, but here's what I discovered in today's conversation that completely flipped my understanding of business growth. 6 months ago, I launched a new program. I had the perfect sales page. I had killer email sequences. I had a solid ad budget. The marketing was flawless, but you know what drove 80% of my sales? The marketing to my personal network of people. Meanwhile, my ads, they barely broke even, and that's when it hit me. We're not living in a business to consumer world anymore. That was a couple years ago. We are living in a consumer to consumer world, tribe to tribe, community to community. And today I'm sitting down with Selena Soo, the brilliant mind that's behind the new book, Rich Relationships. And she's about to reveal why most entrepreneurs are fighting a losing battle.
Welcome to the Thinking Big podcast with Sean Osborne, the show helping you think bigger into your life and potential. Sean believes by equipping you with the tools, strategies, and philosophies required to be successful in all aspects of your life, you can achieve anything you believe in. Empowering our own growth makes a deeply positive and lasting impact on our lives, community, and our world. Now, here's Sean.
Well, Selena, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Thinking Big podcast and to share your gold and share your knowledge with the audience.
Thank you. I'm absolutely honored to be here.
And I want to start off just saying, one, a huge congratulations on your new book, Rich Relationships. And before we get into that, we're going to get pretty deep into that. But before we do, I wanted to ask you a few things because you have built really an incredible career of helping other people, of helping do things, and helping them shine and helping them prosper. I'm an introvert like you initially. So when did you finally, or what was the thing that made you come out of your shell and say, you know what, I'm done being an introvert. I need to start being an extrovert. Because for me, that was such a huge thing, and I'm still in it, but I'm getting better.
Yeah, this is such an interesting conversation. I'm so passionate about the topic of introversion because I identify as a super introvert. I am not the kind of person who at a party is like, look at me, I'm in the center of the room, commanding the conversation. I'm the kind of person, if I'm in a group circle, I'm the one that's quiet, listening the whole time, right? By the time I've thought of something to say, the conversation has moved on to a new topic. And that happens to a lot of introverts because of the way that our brain works and how we process information. At a party, I am that wallflower in the corner talking to one or two people. And so I just want to reassure people that you can be an introvert, you can be an extrovert, you can be an ambivert, and be very successful at building rich relationships. The book is so much about really understanding who you are, and based on your unique personality, your comfort level, your strengths, your weaknesses, right? What are the best ways to show up in relationships? That being said, and I'm like deep into the study of Myers-Briggs, I'm in the process of getting certified. The interesting thing is all humans are actually, they have extroverted qualities and introverted. So even if you're like an introvert like me, I'm on Myers-Briggs. I don't know if people know what it is, but it's the world's most popular personality assessment. So I'm what they call an INFJ. It's the same as Gandhi and Mother Teresa, not to put myself in that kind of hero category, but it's like more of the quiet leader, the reluctant leader. They're not somebody that is vying for the spotlight, that wants everyone to just be looking at them, but rather they are someone that is so mission driven. And because their mission is so strong, the purpose is so strong, they put themselves out there because they really care about helping other people. And so when people see that extroverted side of me, maybe leading, because I bring together groups, I lead events, I promote ideas, it's really coming from a passion for a mission and truly caring about people, but not because me as an individual is extroverted by nature and wants all of the attention and needs, all the people around me. It's really having, a bigger goal, which I feel like is something that you and your audience can, probably really connect with.
Oh, absolutely. And I am just like you. I am a complete introvert. I would absolutely. So the only reason I started my podcast like 6 years ago was to force myself to get in front of a mic and at least start talking. That's the only reason I started the podcast.
Yeah. It's like
it would force me to do that.
Yeah.
And you talk about, obviously it's the name of the book, and you have built a a really good, rich relationship, like with your audience. What has that done? Like, so from an entrepreneur standpoint, why is it so important for us to build these rich relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I want to define for everyone is what is a rich relationship? And so a rich relationship is one that massively uplevels the quality of your business and your life, right? There's three core characteristics. One is these rich relationships do bring financial abundance to you, whether directly or indirectly. It could look like a mentor that gives you this game-changing idea that creates a six-figure or even seven-figure revenue stream. It could be a referral partner who believes in your work so much and sends all the best clients your way. And it could also look like a confidant, someone who is with you through the highs and the lows, is with you when you are lacking confidence and wondering, should I keep doing this? Who's like, I believe in you. I'm here for you. They're like that trampoline, right? That supports you and helps you reach new heights. So whether directly or indirectly, these are people that are supporting you with your business, right? And creating more financial abundance. So more financial abundance, that's the first characteristic. Number two is your rich relationships are going to be people who are aligned with your biggest goals and dreams. They care about what you are looking to create in the world. They are helping you get to your end destination faster. These are people that want to see you win, right? So rich relationships are aligned with your biggest goals and dreams. And last but not least, rich relationships inspire you to become the best version of yourself. I feel like so much of our personal growth involves who we spend our time with, what we learn from each other, how they inspire us. And a lot of our rich relationships, we're going to see qualities in them that we want to emulate, or they bring out the best side of us, right? But rich relationships are not with people that, have major values misalignment, who are unethical, who you don't feel safe around. It doesn't matter how powerful or influential. That's what I would call an unhealthy relationship. And so rich relationships have that quality of being abundant, being synergistic, and having that mutual caring.
And so from an entrepreneur standpoint, that's why they are so important and essential for an entrepreneur. I mean, do you think someone can be, and I don't, but do you think someone could be successful at that level without having those rich relationships?
I don't think that they can. I mean, there's obviously some people have more rich relationships than others, but the truth is there's certain places that you can only go to with rich relationships. Like I think about someone who's on my team and she recently transitioned out. I adore her and she was leading sales and marketing for me and she's now a fractional CMO. And she reached out to me recently because she wanted to get in touch of two very, very influential people. Now, there's no amount of mass marketing. There's no amount of Facebook ads or emails to your list or any kind of paid advertising that could get you in front of these people to be like, yes, I'll have a meeting with you. The only way is through, my rich relationship or someone else's rich relationship with them saying like, hey, I was thinking of you because there's someone really special on my team. She's now off on my own. And I think it would be really worth a conversation. She has some ideas on how she can support you. Would you be open to me putting you in touch? Right. And like same day, I can make those connections. And so literally there's no amount of money you can pay for that trust. And when you're working with people at the highest level, and you work with a lot of successful people, Tony, Dean, Russell, there's no amount of mass marketing that is going to convince them to hire someone, to partner with someone. Excuse me, to invite them into intimate rooms is going to come through referrals and recommendations. So that's one reason why rich relationships are so important. And I think, a lot of people are hearing that now we're in a trust recession. And the thing is, a rich relationship is, that's even higher than trust, right? Because you could trust someone, but just because I trust you doesn't mean that I'm going to do business with you, right? Just because I trust you doesn't mean that I'm a close friend of yours. Just because I trust you from afar doesn't mean that I'm going to show up and support you. So I actually think rich relationships are the world's most highest form of currency. It means if you reach out to someone, they're going to get back to you. If you need them, they're going to care and see how they can support you. They're going to do all the things, right? Give you support you with ideas, brainstorm, help you, connect you. So it truly is the highest form of currency. And what a lot of rich relationships do is they also will put your name on the map. Because, Sean, as you know, with business, it's one thing for you or anyone to tell the world, hey, I'm really good at this. But if we are the only person carrying that message, it's only going to go so far. We need other people recommending, endorsing us, introducing us, opening up doors for our message and our work to really unlock its full potential and go as far as it can go.
Yeah, and I think it's even more important now. Yeah, you talked about, trust recession. I think people are now, it's no longer like business to consumer. The way I'm seeing it, it's almost from consumer to consumer. It's from tribe to tribe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see people buying from their tribe of people. What's the tribe recommending? Way more than if they see an ad, or way more than if they see. So it's like, I think these relationships are getting so much bigger now, and it's literally the way people are buying. From what I can tell, it's like the stuff that I've rolled out in the past year, especially the past 6 to 8 months. It's like the things, more sales are coming from my communities than from ads and stuff, because people, they don't trust anymore. It's like they see so much stuff, they see so many ads, they see all this stuff. It's like they are buying from their communities now. It's like, what's the community doing? And it's like those relationships are huge.
That's gold, Sean. And what you're also making me think of is like with this world of chat GPT and how we can produce content so easily, people are like, is that true? Or is that recommendation or endorsement from someone 5 years ago that had success with a system? Like, what about today? What about right now? And so I wholeheartedly agree with you that, myself included, if I'm looking to hire a service provider, I want to talk to someone that has worked with them, ideally quite recently. And so, yes, like when I am making big investments in my business, who do I hire for the various things I need? I ask my network, who is good? Who do you trust? That's way better than just doing a random Google search or just relying on a Facebook ad alone. I want more comfort and relief that I'm making the right decision.
Yeah. And if I look back at my entire career, everything that has pushed me forward in my businesses and everything has been the relationships that I've had.
Yeah.
All the way back from like when I started an internet company that we went and took public back in the late 90s into 2000. Wow. And that company was formed based on a relationship that I had. It's like, okay, I would have never started that company had I not had that relationship. Going forward, all the stuff I do now is all based on relationships, doing stuff, work with, Dean Graziosi and Tony and Russell. All of that is based on relationships, and it's stuff that you cannot buy that. As you said, you can't buy that trust. You cannot buy that. You have to build the relationships, and the relationship has to come first before you can do those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Relationships first. Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they are feeling scarce and they're in that, like, they feel desperate for business. And, I think we've all had moments where we're like, I got to hustle. I'm going to go into beast mode. I need to like make things happen. But it's really not very effective. You really want to start with a relationship first, cultivate that, have that foundation of trust. And then, business naturally flows from that. I don't know if you had this experience, Sean, but I've joined, different communities, and people see I join and they're like, oh, you're in so-and-so's program too. You do a lot of work in publicity. I'm a branding expert. How about we get on the phone and see how we can start referring business to each other? And I feel really uncomfortable because, wow, I've only been in this community for 2 seconds and now someone is trying to transact with me and they're expecting me to send all of my valuable clients to them for branding services. And similarly, they're saying that they're going to do that for me. So it makes me think like, wow, this person doesn't have discernment because they don't even know if I'm any good at what I do. And they're wanting to like create some kind of deal. And so it's not to say that we can't have these conversations. There's just certain time and place where it can be appropriate to be like, hey, I noticed that we work with so many similar people and you do something that I don't offer. And I'm looking for a preferred service provider to send people's way. Maybe there's a way that we could collaborate or, yeah, work in this referral based way together? Do you want to explore that? But that's later. So, when I talk about building relationships, I talk about, communication and conversations, because it's through conversations that we create a relationship. And so there's three levels of conversation, Sean. So level one is you're meeting someone for the first time. It's like, hey, what do you do? Where do you live? Oh, you know that person? Incredible. What are your goals? What are your dreams? Oh, you're going to that event. Oh, we're going to be in the same city, right? So it's just like the intro, kind of getting to know each other, getting the basics down, right?
Right.
Wrapping your head around who is this person and what are they all about? And then a level two conversation, that is a nurturing conversation. So that is where trust is being built, right? Time is being spent. Maybe, Sean, we're having a conversation. You're teaching me about, your amazing list building strategies. Maybe I'm having a conversation. I'm like, let me, share with you what I've learned from going through my book launch. And we're getting to know each other, how we think. We're supporting each other. There's that mutual caring and trust that's being built. And we have a foundation, right? We're having a podcast interview. Maybe we read each other's books, right? So we're in that nurturing stage of like getting to know each other. And then level three is a solid foundation has been built. And then from there is a lot more possibility, right? But it's not appropriate to ask someone on day one, hey, can you introduce me to your most important business contacts? Can you start referring business to me? Can you do X, Y, and Z? That's a level three conversation after level one and level two has already been established.
Yeah, and I think it goes in multiple directions. So for me, it's not just the conversations like one to one. This like you're meeting, the relationships you build like in person.
Sure.
It's like people often ask me, how is your email list so effective? People come to me and say email is dead. It no longer works. I'm like, it no longer works for you because you never built a relationship. It's
yeah.
like the relationships with your list, regardless. It's like you'll see people. I won't name names, but they will get you onto their list with an opt-in, and then immediately they sell you. Right? Immediately they sell you, and it's like that is just not the way to do it. That's not how I do it. It's building those relationships, and it's like the way I like to say it is it is a savings account. People that are on my list, I cannot make a withdrawal. I can't ask them for a sale. I can't ask them for something until I've deposited money into that savings account, until I've deposited trust into that savings account. Then at some point I can take a withdrawal and say, hey, I've got this offer, I've got this. And to me, it's really in alignment with what you do with the building the relationships. So again, I think it's on every level, whether it's your online communities, your online email list, in person. It's these relationships are absolutely core at every single level of what we do as entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And I would love to add to that because I totally get kind of like the banking analogy, but I don't know. I kind of think of it a little bit differently because when, you are making an invitation to people to purchase your program, to be mentored by you, to get things that cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of figuring out to get for, a much smaller amount. I don't even think of it as taking a withdrawal. I think it's like a deepening of a relationship because they're getting so much. And I think that this is something, and I know they're all like, semantics and nuances, but I think it's just worth looking at because I do know that there are some people that they block themselves from some of the riches that are available to them. They're like, okay, I'm not going to ask this person for anything. I need to really like save up for the right moment. And I think that sometimes we don't have to wait as long as we think. I mean, I'm not saying, Sean, like make all these big inappropriate asks without building trust, right? So I'm not saying that. But I am saying that I think that sometimes when you do lean on people for support, you are actually strengthening the relationship and they do enjoy it. And with the right people, it doesn't feel like you're taking. It feels like we're building together. So when I think about like a mentor-mentee relationship, that is a relationship where there is a unique kind of energy. It's an energetically abundant relationship, but it is not a reciprocal relationship. Because at least early on, the mentee is never going to be able to do what the mentor can do for them. And sometimes the mentor is like, honestly, I don't need anything from you. There might be cases where it's like, hey, I don't need money from you. I just want to invest in you. I want to see you win. I see that you're a rising star. I see myself in you. I believe in you. Right. And when people sometimes think relationships need to be reciprocal or identical, or I can only receive if I can match what you've given me. We can sometimes, if we're coming from a great place because we don't want to be a taker, but we can sometimes like shut down riches. I know for myself, I enjoy being a giver. And when I give to someone, I don't think you need to give me anything back. What I am thinking though is that we're building an energetically abundant and rich relationship.
Right.
And I think about I'm pouring into my network as a whole. And when I'm a kind and generous person and I add value to my network, I know, that abundance, that good energy will come back to me some form or another, whether it doesn't have to be from the same person. But I almost want to I like what you're saying, because I do think you do have to make investments in order to have a rich network. But I also don't want people to think that when they receive from their network, it's like that they're taking. I think it can actually be, in many cases, strengthening.
Yeah, and that goes to some of my limiting beliefs that I still have based on
Mm.
my past, and I can as you say that, it's like I can definitely see how part of my past has put some limiting beliefs obviously in my head that I still carry to a certain extent. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
we all have them, Sean. I
Yeah.
think that, a lot of people, myself included, we block ourselves from the riches in our network, either because of beliefs or behaviors. And the beliefs come from our biography. There are people where, they were younger with their parents, like you could get something, but it always came with strings attached. Maybe there was drama associated with the giving, right? And so sometimes, we can be afraid to receive because it's like, okay, I'm saying yes to this, but what's around the corner? Or maybe, there are people that you poured into and they always felt like it was never enough. Right. And so there's all these different things. It can also be cultural. So for me, when I'm half Asian, and I grew up in Hong Kong, and in Asian culture, people fight for the bill. And, literally like grown men will like pull the bill out of someone else's hands and like run away because they want to be the person who pays for it. So it's very like honorable. It's a way that you show like love and caring. And so I will say, like, sometimes, if I see someone that I don't know, is like very stingy with money, like down to the dollar, or, not generous, like because of my upbringing, maybe I have a certain interpretation of that, but maybe they have every reason to be that way because of, how they grew up, and that's just how things were done. So I think it's good to be aware of what shaped how we show up, how we give, and also just how comfortable we are with receiving.
Yeah, and then so we're entrepreneurs that are trying to build their networks, and they're trying to do this. What is
Yeah.
one of the biggest mistakes that we make when we're trying to build our networks, and we're trying to and what can we do to not only to turn around, but what can we do to correct the mistakes that we're making in building these relationships, these rich relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the number one way you build a rich relationship is by being a giver. Everyone wants to be around generous, kind people, but there's three different types of givers. So let's talk about that, because this is where a lot of the mistakes happen. And when I describe these three, just know that for every single person, myself included, we've had moments in our lifetime where we've been each of these three givers. Okay, so number one, this is the indiscriminate giver. So what person gives from a place of, I'm not enough. I need to prove myself. I want to please you. I want to show you that I'm worthy of your attention. And so these people often center the other person, and they pour a lot into other people. But at times they lose sense of themselves and their needs and their priorities. And what can happen over time if this indiscriminate giving is unchecked is they can become resentful and angry at people. Even if they were the one that initiated the giving, they had the idea, right? I know that I've fallen into that category before. Now, there's also the transactional givers. And so these are people who, they are, very goal oriented. And it's like, okay, I'll give you X if you give me X back later. They're really kind of short term thinking, right? And it's fine to have transactions in business. That's how business is run. But when it comes to the spirit of generosity, if it's overly transactional, well, one, a lot of people don't feel like they want to be in those kinds of relationships. And you're also blocking like the flow of abundance, because also transactional givers, sometimes they're afraid to receive because they're like, I don't know if I can give that back to that person, right? It's just like a very tit for tat, and it's very limiting. Now, then we have rich givers. And so rich givers are people who are very intentional or purposeful. They understand that their time and energy is limited, and they pour from a full cup into the relationships that are the most energetically abundant. Because while we're all equal as humans, not every relationship is equal. There are going to be certain people that care about you, who show up for you, who have a kind of, I don't know, like a values alignment that really inspires you. These are, people where, you can do so much more together, and you're going to want to prioritize those relationships. So rich givers, they don't try to give to everyone. They don't lose themselves. They care about other people, but they don't lose themselves in the process. And they pour intentionally into a network where they're creating a lot of abundance for everyone involved. And they're also allow themselves to be a rich receiver where other people can pour into them as well. Because, something that we should talk about, Sean, is, there's probably a lot of your listeners that could say, like, Selena, Sean, I identify with being a giver, but I feel like I actually give too much and there's nothing left over for me. I feel exhausted. Or they might say, oh, I'm a sociable person. I have this network. I've built the network. I've nurtured the network, but I actually don't really get anything. Nobody thinks of me. I put myself last. Other people put themselves last. And I have a lot of, ideas, and we could talk about that, about how people can address that. But I think it's important to talk about. I think the other parts are maybe easier in some cases, like how do I give? But I think how do I receive, and how do I make ask without damaging a relationship? I think that that's maybe like a harder thing for some people. I mean, what do you think?
No, I agree, and I think it's at all levels of the relationships. Whether it's I know you go into 5 key types of relationship. The mentor, the peers, and
Yes.
I think it's giving and receiving on all those on all the levels of relationships that we have. I mean, what do you think about, like, if you looked at your relationship types that you talk about, the mentor, the peers, the promoter, the team members, and then the confidant? What do you think that giving to each of those is the same?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things when we're looking to develop relationships. We want to have a network, right? Not just like a super small circle. So there's nuances to this. So let's kind of dive in. So I do say in my book, it's actually the first sentence in my book, one rich relationship is more powerful than 100 casual connections. So I hope that people listening to this, extroverts and introverts alike, feel some relief, because I'm not saying that you need to be friends with everyone. You don't have to run around the country going to every single event and conference and running yourself ragged. There are going to be certain relationships, and you can see this in your own life, certain people that are true blue that show up for you no matter what, right? Certain relationships matter more than others. That being said, you don't just want only one mentor, only one confidant, only one peer, only one promoter, only one team member, because as the saying goes, one is the most dangerous number in business. If that person disappears, then, who do you have, right? And like when you think about in business and in life, sometimes there's a lot going on. And if every problem, every challenge is placed on one confidant, especially if they're unpaid, they're maybe a friend or a partner, that can be a lot, right? So I would say for every single person, for those 5 categories that Sean and I just mentioned, try to have a few. I mean, absolutely, you can have a primary mentor, and I think it's good to have a continuous relationship with the same mentor. But as you grow and evolve, you're going to want other perspectives. So part of having a rich network is, having a diverse group of people and also a substantial number. So when I talk to people about relationship building, when they're really looking for really step-by-step guidance, I recommend that they create a top 40 list. So top 40, 40. So I want people to make a list of 20 rich relationships they currently have. These are 20 relationships that have depth to them, and they want to nurture those relationships. They want to prioritize those people. So that could be someone that falls into the mentor category. It could be some of their current promoters. It could be team members. It could be confidants. It could be, if we look at some other categories, it could be super connectors. It could be their super fans. It could be their VIP clients, right? And think about who are 20 core people where, you want to make sure that over the course of the year, you're prioritizing them, you're showing them love, you're nurturing, you're watering those relationships. Now, additionally, for us to have a really rich network that supports us as we evolve in business and life, we also want to be expanding our network. So we want to go beyond the people that, we're already in such deep relationship. And so for the other 20, this would be about developing deeper relationships with people that maybe you have looser ties with, or initiating brand new relationships. Maybe you're saying to yourself, I want to start a podcast like Sean, or I want to write a book like Selena is. And you have these specific goals, or maybe it's, I want to be a digital nomad and I want to know how people are making that lifestyle work, or I want to have a 4-day work week. Based on who you are and what your goals are, you want to find people that are aligned with those goals and start creating some of those new relationships, right? By asking your friends, is there anyone that you could recommend to me who would be good to talk about this goal of mine? Or, is there an event or a conference that I should sign up for? Or maybe you initiate and you start organizing meetups and gatherings and bringing those people together. So to, maintain that dynamic network, you want to nurture those rich relationships, some of the richest relationships you have, but then you also want to proactively think about, how do I expand and include more people in my network too?
Now, do you think there's any of those that are more important than others? It's like if I'm gonna have like 3 or 4 very core relationships, is it better to have the mentors, or what do you think? Do you think there's any particular order on?
Yeah, I do think that there's an order. That's a great question. So it really depends on what your goals and dreams are. So that's something that I talk about at the very beginning of the book, because it's hard to build rich relationships when you don't know what you're looking to create in the world and where you are headed, because your rich relationships want to support you. And when people say like, Sean, Selena, how can I help you? If we didn't have an answer, then, it's really hard to like unlock the power of the rich network. So, let's say if you're early in your business, or you're looking to crack the code on something that you just haven't been able to figure out, then the mentor is going to be extremely important to you. That's a relationship to prioritize. And there's many ways you can pour into the mentor, right? By circling back and letting them know, oh, I implemented this and this is the result. And then there's like a win-win, because maybe even the mentor wants to showcase you on a webinar, or on the sales page, or in a newsletter, right? I mean, the way that you can really help the mentor the most is by being a living embodiment that they're the real deal and that their work is gold, right? And so maybe you invest more in supporting the mentor, going to their events, letting your friends know about them, right? But then maybe you're in a place where it's like, I've been in business for 10 years or whatever it is, and I'm actually in the kind of smooth sailing, kind of cruise control mode right now. I know what I'm doing. I've benefited from great mentorship, and now I just want to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. But maybe it's like, but I do want to have more peers, to talk to, or maybe I've already figured out my business model, but now I'm in the place where I really want to focus on those promoter relationships, people that could refer business or connecting to media. So over time, the priority of those rich relationships are going to change. But related to that, I think we really should talk about the 6 circles of connection, because that's my number one tool for people on how to manage their network.
Now, before we get into the 6 circles of connection, is this anything like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, you had to ask. No, it's actually not. I mean, I guess there's some similarities. It's about relationships, but it's actually it's different. Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because you do have that framework, and it's from what I've read on it, it is and this is talked about heavily in the book, right?
It's heavily, and it's my people's favorite thing from the book. So okay, when you think about your network, right, you may know hundreds or really thousands of people when you look at your social media, and your address book, your cell phone, but you can't treat every single relationship the same in terms of giving them identical energy, time, proximity, and trust, right?
Right.
So when you look at the 6 circles, we're going to start with circle number 1. So circle 1 is your innermost circle. Okay. So your innermost circle are people who are essentially doing life with you. Typically there is, 1 to 3, a handful of people. For some people, it's 0. But the circle is really based on trust and proximity. So if they're doing life by you, they know what's happening, whether it's day by day or week by week. If I reached out to one of your circle 1 relationships, perhaps your partner, perhaps your very best friend, and I said, hey, what's happening in Sean's world? That person would have an answer. They would know what's happening. So that's circle 1. And your circle 1s, they see your highs, they see your lows. You really open up to them. You trust them. It's the richest relationship is your circle 1. Now, then there's circle 2. So circle 2 are your treasured connections. And these people might not know day by day or week by week what's going on, but they feel like soul family. If you reached out to a circle 2 connection and said, I need help, can you talk tonight? You texted them, can we speak in 3 hours? A circle 2 is really going to try to make that happen. I do talk about, giving without attachment, but what I will say is for your circle 1 and circle 2 relationships, it is healthy to expect that they're going to show up for you in your lowest moments. That's what we do for each other when we're circle 1 and circle 2, right? So it's a pleasure and priority to support you. And so these might be, it could be, very good friends of yours that you've known for years. It could be team members. It could be business colleagues. It could be people that you send business to. So maybe not day by day, week by week, but these are very, very, trusted and treasured relationships in your life. So that's circle 2. So that's about a dozen. I mean, if you have quite a big network, it could be 2 dozen, or it could be like half a dozen. So that's your circle 2. Now you have circle 3. So this is where a lot of your rich relationships are. So this is what we call your active network. So these are the kinds of people that you would invite to the party. These are people that you trust. You feel comfortable recommending them to other people, vouching for them, introducing them to others in your network. If they were in your city and they were in a bind and they needed to crash a night at your place, you would feel comfortable letting them into your home. You would feel comfortable sharing confidential information, knowing that, they have the personal character to respect the confidentiality of that. So that's your circle 3. So a lot of your rich relationships lie there. Okay, now we're moving into circle 4. So circle 4 are your distant connections. These are people that are a little bit at an arm's length. Some other people might call these weak ties. And so there's a couple of reasons why people are in circle 4. One might be you just met them. You had like 1 conversation, maybe 2 conversations. When you meet someone for the very first time, even if you're like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing, I got to connect them to everyone, they're my new business bestie. Well, on day 1, the reality is they're still a stranger. And so you can't give them the level of trust and proximity as a 1, 2, and 3 because they haven't earned that. They haven't revealed that. You haven't just spent enough time together. And so that's why they're circle 4. The relationship is just so young and so early. Another reason why someone might be in circle 4 is you might have a lot of history. Maybe we went to school together. Maybe, we've been part of the same mastermind group for a long time. Maybe they were a client. But you're noticing that there's some things where there's a bit of a misalignment. Maybe every time you talk to them, they're down in the dumps and they're always criticizing and speaking negatively about other people and it doesn't make you feel good. Or maybe you can't rely on them. They always drop the ball. They're not true to their word. And so, you're like, not so, you still like them. They can still be in your network, but they're not going to have total proximity and trust. And you might think twice before making an introduction or recommending them. Now, another reason why someone might be circle 4 is that your circle 1, 2, and 3 are filled to the brim. Your life is so full. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you have aging parents. Maybe you're going through just a lot right now. And you can't really let more people into those innermost circles because you don't have the bandwidth to show up for them and engage deeply in them. So that's why they are circle 4. Now, then there's circle five. So these are disconnected connections. So sometimes someone may be here because they have betrayed you, they have crossed a line, and you don't feel safe with them. It's not healthy. It doesn't feel good for you. Maybe you have had many conversations about what is not working, and it feels like you're just kind of talking in circles and you're getting gaslit and nothing ever seems to change. And you feel pain and sadness. Maybe these relationships bring chaos and drama into your life. Well, that's, a circle five. It's not healthy for you. Or maybe it's not someone that you're in close touch with, but you've heard from other people. This is a dangerous person. This is a litigious person. This is not a safe person. And so you can actually still be kind and cordial, but you keep strong distance. You don't let them in. That's your circle fives. And then last but not least, we have circle six. And so these are unknown individuals. You might know of each other through social media, but the two of you have not been in conversation. And so therefore it's an unknown connection, and that would not be, a rich relationship. So I love sharing this because hopefully as I'm going through this, Sean, you and everyone listening is thinking about who they know and even just like starting to put them into circles. And I remember this woman who really inspires me. She's become a dear friend and colleague, Sherry Salata, who used to actually be the co-president and executive producer for Oprah. She said, maintaining a friendship not rooted in your truth keeps you out of integrity. And when I heard that, I had shivers up and down my arms because I was out of integrity. I had multiple relationships in my life that were not connected to my truth, that were not aligned with who I was. And it can happen sometimes because we get excited about people, we let them in. And once they're close to us, we don't really know how to create that distance. But like, let's just say, maybe you have a mentor and you promote them, but then you start to notice, oh, they're kind of shady, they're kind of transactional, or they're not who they say they are. Well, then it's not in your truth to have that kind of relationship anymore. Or if you have a best friend and let's say they're a relationship coach, but they have so much drama and chaos in their own marriage and they're also creating all these problems with you. Well, it's really hard to be in alignment and be their friend when it's like, oh, this is how they treat me. This is how they act, right? Or like a team member, maybe they make you a lot of money, but then while it doesn't happen often, sometimes they have a big temper and they're condescending to other people. They're hurtful. You feel scared. And it's like, wait, I feel scared inside my own company. Like that's not right. And I'm paying all the bills. And I know, and I can refer to all these examples because I've been this person that's been in those situations. And so it's not that we did anything wrong in the beginning because we didn't know, but once we know, we have to move people into a different circle. So moving someone from a circle 2 to a circle 4 might be not responding to their email or text message instantly. Maybe saying, hey, let me think about that. I'm not sure if I can do that, but let me think about it. If I can, I'll circle back with you. Right? Because none of us want to feel out of integrity with how we live our lives. And we don't have to tell them I've moved you from circle 2 to circle 4, but we know, and we can use that to manage our energy.
Right. And I can't, the book's going to be coming out in about 2 weeks. So it's like, this is going to, I cannot wait to, I've already pre-ordered the book, by the way, but I cannot.
My goodness.
Yeah. I've already pre-ordered. I'm just waiting for it to ship. So I can't wait to dive into, especially this framework, because that framework is so powerful. It is a very powerful framework, and knowing where people are and how they need to be treated is huge. To keep your sanity, to keep your integrity, to keep, to be in alignment with who you really are.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you something. So if you lost everything, today, what was the first thing that you did to kind of rebuild your network, and why?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is invest in my rich relationships, right? Building relationships with people who you care about, being curious about them, supporting them with their goals, and also sharing with them what you're excited about, what matters in your world, and creating space for other people to support you too. Something that I think is another reason why people block rich relationships, Sean, is a lot of people are not willing to be vulnerable. They're not willing for other people to see them in their pain or to share, I have these needs, right? And also that can come from, our upbringing in childhood. It can feel unsafe to express, our vulnerability and where we need things. But I think the fastest ways to build relationships are show a genuine interest in others, support them with their goals, and be vulnerable and be open and allow yourself to receive.
Yeah, and again, this might be coming back from a limiting belief that I might have, but for
Mm.
me, it seems that this is not something that happens overnight. You're not going to build a rich relationship network overnight. This is something that takes time. It's like an investment. It's like you've got to put, to me, I still have to, I feel I've got to put stuff into it in order to get stuff out. And again, it might be a limiting belief that I have, but it's like when you're building these, it doesn't happen overnight.
Well, I think you are correct, Sean. I think you're right that it doesn't happen overnight, that you do have to invest in people. So I'm not saying not don't invest. You have to invest, you have to pour in, you have to build that foundation. Um, so that's true. But also, we don't have to wait forever before we share with people, the things that matter to us. Um, and, it's also it depends on what you're asking for, right? But we don't want to make big requests before we've proven ourselves to be a giver first, before we've shown them that we care about them. People want to pour into other people. It's fulfilling. And the people that they want to pour into most are the people that are the most grateful, right? So it's not even like when I think about when I give, like the greatest reward is just someone's gratitude. And then when I feel like, oh, made such a difference to them, it energizes me and then I want to help them more. So it doesn't really have to be that complicated.
Yeah. And that's so for someone that's listening right now and they don't have a rich relationships yet, they're doing this and they're thinking to themselves, networking, this just isn't my thing. Again, we talked about it a little bit, like I'm such an introvert, building these relationships is just not something for me. What's some powerful things that they can do to start changing that, to start building those relationships?
Yeah. So first of all, step one is understanding that one rich relationship is more valuable than 100 casual connections. And you absolutely don't have to build relationships with everybody. I can understand, being someone that is an introvert and who, sometimes still does like struggle with social anxiety. You don't need to be in all the places. If you don't want to go to the event, don't show up. It doesn't matter, right? You can create your own communities. Maybe instead of going to this big conference that feels overwhelming to you, maybe you're organizing a self-care Saturday at your home and you're watching a movie and you're I don't know getting like hiring someone to come over and do like nails or doing like a face treatment or something like that. Or maybe you're going out hiking with a group of entrepreneurs, or maybe you're doing a book study together, or maybe you're doing a potluck, right? It's not about connecting with people where you feel uncomfortable. It's being intentional about who are people that I want to deepen the relationship with and how can I create spaces and situations that feel good for me. And I can just focus on that. I think that's the first step, is really being honest with yourself about what feels good to you, and then doing more of that.
Yeah, and if I look back over some of my rich relationships and so my circle two especially, it's like I was doing things that I wasn't expecting to build relationships with. In other words, I'm taking action. I'm doing things like could be run club. It could be I'm doing things. I'm taking action. I'm taking action in things. I keep doing things. And it's like, and I meet people while I'm doing those that have nothing to do with business, but those still become rich relationships for me in even into circle two, where I can, again, they didn't come from a business side. They came from a personal side. And, is there a difference between finding your relationships from the business side of things or personal side of things?
Yeah. So I would say that business and life are so interconnected. And so while, my rich relationships framework, we do have like a business perspective in mind, but I would say that, business and life are just like, it's a very similar thing. So maybe there's someone who you go fishing with, right? And the fishing doesn't have to do anything with business, right? It's just like another hobby. But maybe there's lessons that you learn from fishing that you apply to your business. Or this person is making you a more well-rounded individual. They're getting you, away from your computer and into everyday life, right? All of these things like still support what you're doing overall with your career. So I think that you can really, put anyone in the 6 circles of connection. I mean, there might be family members that need to be in circle 4 at an arm's length. It's like, okay, I've known them for a long time and spend time with them, but there's a little bit of distance.
Or further out.
Or even further out, circle 5, circle
Five,
5.
maybe 6. You never know. But yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just funny. So again, there's relationships that I've built that weren't from a business standpoint, but that turned into meeting other people that were from a business standpoint, and
Okay.
even those relationships became important for me financially, even though that's not how they started. In other words, I didn't go to a business conference. It was Run Club, or it was something that I was doing that I built relationships with, and those turn into either meeting other people or
Yeah.
them themselves that turned into business type things. They turned into ideas. They turned into, things that I do that relationship never started that way. In other words, there's people that I will go out, that I met through a business connection. Mike Kim is an example. I met him through business type things. And
Okay.
but I've done the same thing with people that from a personal standpoint. So, and I think what I was getting at was, I don't think we have to pay attention to say, okay, I want to go focus on building my business relationships, because I think some of those actually come from our personal relationships that we're building, and they either turn into, or we meet other people through that turn into kind of some of our biggest business relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you're open about what you're doing, what your goals are, what you're creating, it could be a personal relationship, but now they learn like, oh, you're launching a book. Let me gather a group of people and I'll be the first book club that forms. We'll be the first bulk buy for you, or would love to volunteer, at your event. So yeah, I think that you can let people into what you're doing from a business perspective, and they can start as personal, but they might even want to contribute to what you're creating in the business world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important. The relationships, again, everything that's happened over the past 20 years for me has been based on the relationships that have been built one way or the other. But it's everything has come from a relationship that I've had. And that's why I seriously cannot wait for this book to come out and to start, recommending it to my audience, recommending it to my friends and my business colleagues to go and read this, because it is, to me, everything is built on relationships. Moving forward, it's going to be even that much more important that the relationships are what's going to me, it's if you don't have a good relationship network, I don't think you'll survive as a company moving forward. That's me.
So true. Like, yeah, I don't think you'll even survive, honestly. That's so true. Yeah, because like mass marketing is only going to get us so far. And, people want to do business with people that they feel like have a relationship with them. And you've been a great example. There's ways to create relationships where it can be one to many.
Yeah.
And I imagine, a part of how you build those rich relationships, Sean, is, you add a lot of value, you give them quality content, you help them grow your business, you're sharing your best stuff with them for free. You're also sharing who you are, your values, your vision, and they're getting to know you, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do to build those rich relationships, but not focusing on relationships is going to make it hard for your business to survive, right, in the years that come.
Yeah. And I think as AI becomes more and more prevalent, the relationships are going to become that much more important. It's like we crave that, we need that. So I think it's absolutely where we're going and where we need to stay with. Yeah. Well, Selena, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I cannot wait for the book to come out. I think the launch day is the 13th, May 13th.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this prior to the 13th, it's coming. Go pre-order the book now. It's on Amazon. I got it from Amazon. So, I'm not sure if you have a better link for that, or if you want people to go through Amazon.
Amazon is perfect. That's a wonderful place to get the book. The other thing that I want to share with people, because you may be listening to this podcast before the book has gone live. So I put together together something special for all of the listeners of the Thinking Big podcast. So you can go to richrelationshipsbook.com/thinkingbig, and you can start reading the first 4 chapters for free. You don't have to wait. Another thing is that when people read the book, their favorite thing is the rich relationship scripts, because we have to communicate with others to build those rich relationships. But oftentimes people are like, well, I don't know what to say. What do I say to initiate a relationship, nurture a relationship, activate a relationship? Or also, how do I say no without damaging a relationship? And so I have a bundle of 25 scripts I've put together, the most powerful scripts. Have actually helped me bring in 8 figures over the lifetime of my business. And I put them all together in one place. So if you go to richrelationshipsbook.com, you're going to get the first 4 chapters for free. You're going to get all the rich relationship scripts in one place. And yeah, again, thank you so much, Sean, for this incredible opportunity to connect with your community.
Oh, thank you again for taking the time to get on the show with us. And by the way, those scripts are going to be gold for people like me that that are introverts, that it doesn't come natural for me to do that stuff. So that's absolute gold. So thank you so much for taking the time and being on the podcast. And I cannot wait for the book to come in.
Thank you.